Good morning, everyone. Good evening, whenever you are watching it, to the second day of the Hangathon, teaching you how to turn words into cash with the amazing top copywriter, Jon Benson. Hey, Jon.
Hey, how are you?
Awesome. So, guys, we are so excited about all the engagement and all the shares and the fun games that we play. So, first, we want to recognize our first second day winners. Let me share my screen and celebrate the successes. And Cristiano, he's been holding first place for the past 2 days. And I know I'm going to mess up this name, Paladin. Uh, Kathy today passed him, and then he passed her again right now, this very hour. So, guys, this is a fun game. We're really excited watching it. And the big prize, even though we can't tell you what the other ones are, is valued at $2,500. So keep playing, keep sharing. One more thing that we want to show you. On this page, we have decided, this is where you're watching right now. You see there is a button that says join the hangout. The button is not active yet. You click on it and nothing happens so far. But it will become active when we are done with today's training, so that if you have a question, you will be able to click on this button and join us in the hangout. You might have to refresh the page to make the button active, but we'll let you know. So don't worry about it. Don't press it right now. Just know that this is how you join the hangout. Right here to the side, you'll see that you can download day 2 worksheet. So you really want to download that because there's really great content that goes into today's training. So download it from here and we will go into the training. But before we do, we had great questions yesterday. People were going through day 1, figuring out what their hook is, and asking good questions. So we want to take those because this is all about engagement. We'll start with the one that Behimi Case was writing. First of all, her reaction to yesterday's training is just over the top. This is her first exposure to Jon. She listened and studied many other online gurus, male and female, that offer their very special brand of techniques and tools. I guess I have never received an email from Jon's offering, but with Jon material, I must say that the specifics and how they were given in the hook download were clear, concise, and easy to follow to recreate. Coming out of the PR arena, it was very familiar to me, and I felt confident and excited about the next 9 days of what it is to come. So Dahimi, you're right on the spot. Awesome content coming your way. She says, I love the way you woven it all together, and of course, listening to your explanations are awesome. And here's her question. I can see quite a number of others that I have listened to that are regrouping this information and making it their own and creating their own systems to sell. I have seen this trend quite a bit actually. So the question, Jon, is who's the originator of this awesome material?
Well, that's a great question. Thanks for asking. I always like to start questions by making everyone feel comfortable by saying, like they say, there's no such thing as a stupid question. There's just stupid people who ask questions, as Joe Polish says, and that's a joke. But it's Joe Polish is the guy that can get by with that joke, and I can't. Fortunately, this is a very intelligent person asking a very intelligent question. It's a really good one. One of my favorite testimonials that I play often because it's fun is Ryan Dice, who called up and said, dude, just put me on the phone and record it. And he said, I just want to tell the world I just ripped off Jon Benson on the video sales letter stuff. He is the undisputed king. He taught me all this stuff. So when it comes down to video sales letters and when it comes down to the stuff that you learned yesterday, the copywriting stuff, this is all mine. I can't say that no one's ever taught elements of persuasion, like you come from a fear or a want, need, and things like that. That's pretty much basic persuasion. No one has ever called it the 4 quadrants of desire that I know of, but that somebody may have ripped that off. If they did, they ripped it off. As far as video sales letters go, I'm the guy that started it, so that's pretty much as simple as it gets. So that's why the training, by the way, is so radically different than the training that you get elsewhere. And you'll see this come days 6 through 10 because I'll take you inside of it and show you. And it's extremely It took us a long time to do it. When you see it, you'll go, wow, now I know why this is so different than a video course on how to do a video sales letter or something. It's radically different. Really glad you're getting the value out of it, and stick around. A lot more to come. Thanks.
Awesome. And guys, if you have more questions, keep putting them in the comments. We will bring you actually into the Hangout, even if you're watching the replay. We'll grab the question. We're following everything that you're saying. This is really high-touch Hangathon. So the next question comes from Bradley, and Bradley is here with us in the Hangout. Hey, Bradley. Just unmute yourself, man. And he's on his iPhone, I see.
Hey, Bradley.
There you go. We can't hear you. You unmuted, but we still can't hear you.
Oh,
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you go.
Hey.
Okay. Take the earphones out. Hey, John, how are you doing, sir?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thank you. It's a pleasure, and I mean that. It's a true pleasure to be here. I had a question, and really, I think you answered it in the video yesterday. And my question was, I was on the $1 million headline formula workshop, and boy, I literally a notebook full of notes.
Cool.
Notebook full, seriously. And I guess I don't have a product yet. I've been online, believe it or not. I'm going to be ashamed right here in front of 141 viewers and counting. I've been online for 6 years, and I grabbed your 10 mistakes that online marketers are making, and every one of those mistakes I was making. It hit hard, man. Oh, it hit hard. Okay, I'm trying to be brief and to the point here. The question was, since I don't have a product, using the sales quadrant formula and the headline formulas, is this the way to produce a product? And yesterday, like I said, you went over that in pretty good detail.
Well, today we're going to go over it in a lot more detail, specifically how to produce. I mean, this is literally using sales copy to produce a product, so that you're at the right place at the right time. It is the best way to do it because, number one, it gets you going. Number two, it's kind of formulaic, like almost everything that I do is formulaic, and reconstructed and deconstructed rather from looking at other works that I've done. So it'll give you a pattern of what we know works, and number three, this is the biggest thing. Anytime that you have a blueprint, a formula to go by, it gets you off of that rut of not knowing where to start, of looking at a blank sheet of paper. Those kind of things is what we want to avoid because they're momentum killers. So all success is driven by momentum. All success. It doesn't matter what you're doing. I would say that's doubly true of the internet marketing world because it changes so quickly. So unless you have momentum on your side, I mean, literally things can change overnight. It can change certainly in a month, and you've got to have that momentum to keep going. There's a great analogy for this. It's like you think of a big ocean liner and those huge rudders that steer that thing. If you turn it in dock, it's not going to do anything. But if you turn it in motion, those little rudders can turn that huge ship. And that's the same thing that goes with momentum when it comes down to this stuff. That's why I talk about hitting sales copy and learning that message and really grasping how to do it first. Writing your sales message for a product that you want to create, that you know the audiences of yesterday, you know what their hot buttons are, you know that you're talking to the right points, can actually inspire you to create it because you've got the message for it. I can't tell you how many times I've done this. And a lot of marketers, I thought I was the only one at first. I thought this is really weird. I created the marketing for a book called 7 Minute Muscle before I ever wrote it. And it was like, wow, I've got to actually figure out how to do what I just wrote. This is kind of cool because I knew I could teach people how to train really brief and intense, and it's called density training and bodybuilding. And I knew all this stuff, but I said, how can I make it do that? What I just wrote is kind of cool. And I actually created the program after I wrote it because I was inspired by the writing, and not to say I inspired myself, but I kind of did, you know. And it ended up being a great selling book because I had to fulfill that promise. So this gets you going. It's sales copy is one of those things that it can be a real challenge unless you have a formula, which is what we're covering and teaching and talking about. But once you've got that sales copy down, once you've got the message down, man, everything becomes a lot easier. So today we'll go over like without any further ado kind of thing, we'll go over how to use the 5 steps of my VSO formula to actually create a book. And it's actually the same psychology that you want to use when you create a book. And why it's important to do that, because the selling process actually starts after the sale is made. Well, it starts before, obviously, but the real selling starts after. And I'm not just talking about post-sales, upsells, and things like that. I'm talking about actually selling the customer on the product that you just delivered, that it is a wise decision, that it is a good product, that you're still speaking to that lizard brain that we all have. You know, some people call it the monkey brain, the lizard brain, the different parts of the brain that are fear-based, that really need to be told everything's going to be okay and that you can do this, and then you give people the content. They can achieve a lot more. And of course, when people achieve a lot more, your social ranking goes way up, your virality goes way up, people love you, and this is what you want. So we're going to be talking about that today. It's a great question, so thanks a lot for coming on and asking it.
No, thank you, sir. I truly appreciate it.
Yeah, you got it, man. You got it.
So before we get started, John, I just want to recognize Anita said, your Hangout is so good, I actually woke up at 3 a.m. to watch it live. So welcome, Anita. This is really awesome, and we're going to dive in. So go ahead, John.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Anita, for waking up early. I think a lot of people did, especially overseas, that are waking up pretty early. Really appreciate you guys being here. So today, like I said, we're going to talk about how I use sales copy strategies to actually create a product. And if you're listening and you don't have a product, this is going to be gold for you. If you do have a product, this is going to be just a lot easier way of creating an upsell or your next product. It's just going to help you frame things a little bit differently. Now, I'm going to tease you a little bit. Inside Accelerator, I have what I used to sell this, but I give it away now. It's called the 28-day product creation formula. So in 28 days, literally day by day by day by day. So here's week 1, day 1, day 2, day 3. And if you just follow those steps, you can actually get a product from conception to cash, is what we call it. From literally, you just don't even know what you want to create to making your first dollar online in 28 days. And a lot of people rave about that program. It's really pretty simple. So we're going a very, very high level overview of that today. But inside that is a 7-day ebook, and this is where I'm taking that and create an ebook in 7 days. And really our goal here is to get you to get that first dollar, to get the first $100, $1,000, whatever it may be, so that you get an appetite for this stuff. And for people who are experienced marketers, this is just going to give you a tool to create more value quickly. And we can turn products very, very quickly because we use these formulas and we know what people want. So let's dive in. And you know what? I promised you, Fat, I would do this. She's probably horrified that I'm about to do it, but I'm going to do it anyway because this is just how I roll. And I just want to say this is just welcome to the guy that you're going to be talking to for the next 8.5 days. I got a question yesterday from someone regarding a typo in the email that I wrote out, and actually, you know, it's funny. It's a long story on the writing process here, but I won't go into that right now. But I misspelled the word event, and I spelled it even. You know, so it's the wrong word spelled correctly, which is spell check won't check right. And so this gentleman made a comment that, wow, some copywriter he can't spell. Well, let me give you a clue, folks. Copywriting is not spelling, it's not grammar, it's not diction, it's not syntax, it's persuasion. And unbeknownst to this person, I misspell words on purpose. Now, this is going to freak you out, okay? I'm giving you an advanced tip for the advanced marketers watching. If you misspell a keyword you want people to pay attention to, guess what they're going to do? They're going to pay attention to that keyword. Yes, you will always have the belligerent dumbass like this guy that writes in and says, oh, he can't be a copywriter because he misspelled a word. Well, guess what? The most famous book I ever written, the most popular book, had the word fat loss, which is not really one word. I combined it into one word, so I broke 2 rules. And I misspelled it. I spelled it F-A-T-L-O-S. I got at least 100 emails a day saying, I love your book, but by the way, you misspelled fat loss. And the response was always the same. What word did you pay attention to? You get it? It's a very clever tactic. So if I want someone to pay attention to an event, if I want someone to pay attention to money maybe, or to something, I will misspell it on purpose. Now that's an advanced tactic. I'm not suggesting that everyone go out and do that. But I found that comment really humorous. And whenever you get $1 billion under your belt from sales, you can open your mouth and talk to me about it, pal. Okay? So there you go. That's how we roll here, man. I'm going to answer your questions brutally and honestly, and with all modesty where it's called for. But sometimes I just want to come out swinging because my dad was a boxer. I don't know if I told you the story yet, but my dad grew up, and I was born to an older parents, and my dad was 55 when I was born. And he was a Golden Gloves boxer, so I grew up in a household that we sparred and boxed, and we loved confrontation in a really loving way. So I hope that you take that in a somewhat loving confrontational way. But yeah.
Well, actually, John, I want to say something. This is actually, you're giving people permission. I know there's a lot of people who are watching who are international. English is probably not their first language, like myself, and we're very, very picky. You know, we're very worried about how we're going to come across in writing. You just gave us permission to be ourselves and not really worry about the spelling and the grammar. It's more the idea and the persuasion behind it. So I think that's a great tip.
Exactly, and that's actually what I meant to do with that. I just want to carry a little bit of theatrical behind it because you know, okay, guess what, guys? Everything I just did was staged. Are you with me? Everybody paying attention? Everybody paying attention? Everything I just did was staged. Now, that really did happen, but I told you, I'm going to actually do this. And what did I do? I did the very first step of this formula. I created a pattern interrupt. I mean, face it, you're talking to a guy who's actually a really nice guy who wants to help you, and all of a sudden I come out and say, yeah, this jackass wrote this stupid email to me, and I'm just like, it just comes out of nowhere, right? It was like, wow, where did that come from? The reason I did that wasn't to make a point as much as it was to break your pattern. A pattern interrupt is the very first thing we want to talk about when it comes down to writing sales copy and when it comes down to writing your book. You want something that's going to shock somebody. It doesn't have to be negative like that was. It could be something that's a shocking statistic or something that they're not expecting. Like one of my most famous video sales letters that was actually a friend of mine wrote. He just went through my course. It started off with my name is Josh, and this is a picture of this is a fish, and it had this goldfish just staring at you like this. And the tagline went on to say, and in a few minutes you're going to figure out why I'm going to reveal how this fish can help you get laid. And his course was a course on sexuality. And it's like you hit the site, and you're looking at a goldfish. And it was like, what on earth? Well, that ended up doing about $10 million a year in revenue because it just captured what on earth is he talking about? Yeah. That's called a pattern interrupt. And that's what I just did in a humorous way, also to make a point that you don't have to be conscientious of your spelling and your grammar. In fact, copywriting breaks every grammatical rule there is. I'm serious. The best copy that you will read breaks every rule. I've had English teachers email me going, man, your writing is atrocious. It's absolutely terrible. Now, here's what's funny is I'm actually a trained writer. So in other words, I write poetry, and I've written, obviously, books this doesn't apply to. But when it comes down to copywriting, you throw all those rules out. So it's great that you don't have to be a trained writer to write great copy. In fact, we break the rules on purpose. I will begin sentences with prepositions and I will end sentences with but, colon, and it's like crazy, you know. But that's what works, and the reason it works is it keeps people hanging on to the next sentence. Now, I'm going to begin today by talking about a term, and then we're going to get into the tips on creating the product real quick. The term that I want to talk about that kind of encapsulates all this is a term called agreeance. Agreeance is an old English term that simply means that you're going to agree with what somebody says. You're engaging dialogue that gets people to shake their head. One of my copywriting friends calls it the nod effect. So when you're reading your copy, you ask yourself this question: are you nodding? Are you going like this? So let me ask you a question. Have you ever woke up in the morning and felt hungry? Yeah. Okay, this is a very common, right?
Yeah.
It's not exactly highbrow English we're talking about here. You know, yeah. Have you? So that's an agreeance term. All right. So I just want to get you into an agreeance mindset. So the reason why I want to do that is somewhat subtle unless you're looking at it from a mile-high picture. The reason I want to do that in a sales letter and in a book, as you're about to see, is because I want you shaking your head all the way down to the point where it gets to the, oh, now's the time to buy this product. Because what have you been doing for 20 minutes? You've been doing this for 20 minutes. And it's quite effective tool when it comes down to any kind of copy, whether it's email, sales copy, whatever it may be, and as you're about to see, book copy. So That was a shocking introduction. I'm known for them, so I hope that you're past that. But it's really cool that it got your attention. You're probably paying really close attention to me right now, which is what I want you to do. Okay, so let me ask you this. What should you do first? This is the question that a lot of people have been asking. Should you create your product first or your sales message? The answer to that question is, if you've already created your product first, then the answer is obvious. You need to create your sales message, right? But if you haven't, or if you want an upsell or an additional product, I really suggest you create the marketing for that product first. I just did this yesterday with one of my writers here on staff. He wrote the rough draft of a sales letter that will be a video sales letter that I'm editing now for a product that doesn't really exist. It sort of exists, but not really. There's a lot of components of the product. And so as I was writing the copy this morning and editing it, I said, oh, that would be cool. Wow. How am I going to pull that off, though? Oh, wait, I can include a live webinar, and they can pay me for that. Wow. And so I will actually make the product, and people will pay me before I've made the product to make the product. So I'm going to let you hang on to that thought for just a moment, and because I'm going to come back to it at the end of this very, very short tutorial section and tell you how that works. How do you get people to pay you to write a product? It's really cool. So a lot of people wanting to make their first dollar online that don't have a product, why don't you do both at the same time? This is the cool thing that will teach you how to do that. All right? So tip number one is, I think you should create your marketing first. That's what you should create first. Your sales message comes first if you haven't already got a product. If you have, don't fret. Just know that you can make your upsells this way and you can do your next product this way. It's not like your product's going to fail. But I would like you to go back over your product with some of the ideas I'm about to share and make sure that you've got these components inside your ebook, or if it is a book or video series. If it's a service, this isn't as applicable. So just so you know that. But it is applicable from the sense that you want to always email your customers afterwards and walk them through the same process I'm about to go through to secure the sale, to make them feel secure and confident in their buying decision. Okay, so
John, hold on. Actually, what you're saying, I think this one advice just saved people thousands of hours and tons of money, because a lot of people are very, very passionate about their ideas, and they create them before they even know there's a market to sell them to. And what you just said is like, okay, find the market that actually wants to give you the money, then spend the time to create the product, and not create something that nobody wants and then try to figure out a way to sell it to them.
Exactly, exactly. The people, like we said yesterday, will tell you what they want. It's asking someone, what do you want? What would most suit your needs? What would most serve you is one of the best questions you can ask anyone. I mean, so yes, why not ask it of your prospects? They will tell you. And then what's really cool, I'm jumping ahead here, but go ahead and take these notes. That's cool. If you do that and you find out, you get a list of things that your prospects want, and you just take the top three, the ones that come up the most, and say, I'm going to have a free webinar on Thursday or whatever, and I'm going to cover these three topics, 1, 2, 3. And then you can mail that out. If you don't have a list, you can rent a list. There are companies that rent lists. It's totally legal to rent a list. It's never buy a list. You can rent a list. In other words, you can rent a list that's if you're in the weight loss market, you can rent a weight loss list that will charge you maybe $500 to $1,000 to send out to that list. But the response that you'll get back from that on a targeted list can be really, really high. Send people to a free webinar, and then you just cover the content that you've already been told that they want to hear. Remember, you took a sample data, and then at the end of it, you can sell the recording of that webinar and the transcript for your very first product. And ta-da, you can sell it to the people who were actually on the webinar, because people aren't good at, they're not taking nearly the kind of notes that you can take from a transcript. And of course, you can add in some sort of a bonus thing, and presto, you have your first product. And you can even charge for this workshop. Now, you're going to get as many people on there, but you could definitely charge for it and charge $27, $37 to attend, and you might get 50 to 100 people that immediately pay you. You've made your first money online, and you got paid to actually make the product, because that becomes your product. So the question is what is contained in that product? I'm going to take an ebook as an example. It could be anything, but let's just take an ebook. Those are easy. And this is what I suggest. There are 5 steps to the VSL formula that we're going to cover in the last 5 days of these Hangouts. And I'm going to cover them brief. I'm not going to give you the names of them now. I'm going to tease you a little bit. Unless you know them. If you know them, then you already know them. But if you don't know them, here's the sections that you're going to do. First of all, you're going to have to open with something shocking. You're going to have to create a pattern interrupt, even in a book. So here's what I mean by that. If I buy a book on I'm going to keep using weight loss and weight training because that's my background. If I buy a book on weight loss and the very first page in the book says, everyone wants to lose weight and losing weight can be fun and fast and blah, 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 blah. I'm already bored. I'm already bored. But the books that have really impacted me is that when I open the book and they say something like, you know, it was 100 years ago when so-and-so first did this crazy diet that did this, and this is actually a true story. It was over 100 years ago when this guy, William Benning, I can't remember his last name, went on what became the first low-carb diet. And he had this ridiculous weight loss story, and none of the doctors could figure it out. And so it's related to the topic, but it's kind of a shocking story. The story actually is pretty cool. So if I start like that, or if I start by like something like this, you may not realize it right now, but the breakfast that you just ate could be inching you closer to a heart attack. And here's why. Just starting off with something that's really shocking, okay? So get someone's attention. That's what you want to do in the book in a book that you're going to create. And then immediately go into rapport. That's the most important thing. So you don't want to just be shocked value like Howard Stern kind of shock jock kind of thing. You want to make sure that you're making an impact and that people are really going to be glued to what you're saying. Because if you say that and you say, listen, I'm going to explain inside this book why the breakfast you ate can be leading to a heart attack and how subtly changing that can actually create a leaner, fitter you faster than you've ever dreamed possible. Now, before I tell you more about this, let me tell you a little bit about my own journey, how I became so passionate about this. You might be in the middle, by the way, of your journey, in whatever industry that you're in. You might be right in the middle of it, and that's okay. Don't let that stop you from making a product. You can say, I'm in the middle of this journey myself. Now, hopefully, you have to have some success, okay? So I've lost my first 30 pounds, and I have 30 pounds to go. Maybe you're going to say that. But I realized during my first 30 pounds, all these mistakes that I was making for years. And I decided to create a journal, and I'm sharing that journal with you now in the form of a book. And say, just, you know, I went through one mistake after the other. And all I'm doing here is building rapport. I'm telling the prospect that, look, I'm a lot like you. I'm just about this much above where you're at right now. Or maybe you're this much above. But don't come across as being the expert, end-all, be-all. Those books do work if you have a lot of PR behind you, if you have a lot of fame behind you. They don't work if people don't know who you are. People really want to be relatable. So this is the goal, to be relatable. I call it a modest introduction, by the way. This is how you modestly introduce yourself. You tell your story and say, I'm a lot like you. And that's why because guess what? We want to listen to people who are a lot like we are. We just want to listen to people that we think or maybe have an edge up in a certain area. But not someone that's like so far up on the totem pole that there's just no way we can ever reach them. That's the last people that most people want to listen to. Now, granted, there are guru followers out there and things like that, but I always try to knock that down really quickly and say, look, you know, I've been in the trenches. I get it. I totally understand. This is why I had to formulate some systems to make my own creative process easy, because I understand how difficult it can be. I wasn't born, you know, I didn't even want to start to be a copywriter when I started in business. So I totally get it. And I also know the value of it. So that's the rapport section. The next section in your book, it has to go into section 3 is like, let me tell you why the problem that you're facing is not just a problem for you. It's a problem for your entire family. And the problem is far worse than you think it is. Wow, do I have everyone's attention now? Because right now, the problem that you are facing in business, whatever it may be, maybe it's I don't have a sales page, I don't have a converting sales page, I don't have a product, I don't have, fill in the blank what you don't have, I don't have enough traffic. That problem can be magnified, and it should be magnified. Your job as a marketer and as a writer of the product is to magnify that out to as big as it can possibly get, because that's the leverage that gets people to take action. If you say, look, I can give you a better sales page and you may make a little bit more money online, is that leverage? No. I mean, if I say, if I can give you a sales page that will help you make more money online and it's going to help you avoid one of the worst financial disasters that people make. In fact, a lot of people that get online end up going back to work at menial labor jobs because they wasted years of their life and now their prime has passed them. And we don't want that to happen to you, do we? So it's a lot bigger problem, isn't it? I mean, think about the embarrassment that could cause you, and the family embarrassment, not to mention that your kids and your wife. I can go down the rabbit hole if I wanted to with that. But you get the idea. You want to create the problem and illustrate why their problems are actually bigger than what they think. And then the fourth step of the book is to give them a bigger solution. You've got a big problem. You want a bigger solution. What's my solution to this problem? Well, the good news is everything I just said has a solution. And the solution I've made is simple as humanly possible. It's a system, a blueprint, a fill in the blank, some sort of a thing that, it's a hand-holding process where I am literally going to take you by the hand and show you step by step how to do this. And what's great is anyone can do it. Anyone that's got the will to do it can do it. And then you go into the content of whatever your book is. So those little psychological preambles, if you will, are extremely important. And they're all sales copy derivatives. They're all derivatives of great copy that you want to put into your product, or even into your, if you have a service, emails that you could send out. Think of this as an email drip. Like the very first email you send out could be something like a shocking statistic about something in your service industry. And the next email could be like, I got an embarrassing story to share about my own experience in blank industry. The third email could be like, a lot of people think the problem is this, but the problem is much bigger. And do you see how this works? So we're psychologically, we're basically setting up the dominoes, and we're wanting one domino to tip the other, and it's to become an exponential effect to where people are like thumbing the pages like this. We really want to get to the meat of this, and they're hooked. They're hooked because they are relating to you, but because you've also put the fear of God in them, in a sense, when telling that it's a little bit scarier than you think it is, and we don't want this to happen to you. So they really, really want that solution. Now, when you give them that solution after doing this, you go from a guy that's, wow, that was a good book. Yeah, that was cool, to a book that's like, dude, you have to read this book. This book changed my life. The books that people say change their lives have these components inside of them. They do. They might not have them in that exact order, but this order is the one that I found that works the best. But they have these components inside of them, and that's what I want for you guys. It could be a 20-page book. This does not have to be War and Peace. You can write a very short book and sell it online. One of my friends sells a book that's 1 page. It's 1 page. He calls it a book. He calls it a manual, I believe. It's a 1-page manual, and he sells it for $17. And the number one feedback he gets is, thank you for not making something too complicated. One page is great. And so he actually makes it a selling point. Believe it or not, I've made a diet so easy, it's all on 1 page. The diet exercise program so easy, it's 1 page. What would 1 page be worth to you that would solve all of your problems? You can literally read this in 15 minutes or less, And he makes it a selling point. Now, that's an extreme case, but a lot of the best books that I've read online from ebook publishers, etc., are short. They're under 100 pages. Some of them are under 50 pages. So don't get caught up in having to write a lot of data. You want to write very qualified data, very, very impactful data. So the stuff that I just covered has really not a lot to do with your solutions to whatever problem you're trying to fix, but it does have to do with the psychology and mindset of the person who just bought it. So they're being reaffirmed all along that I've made the right decision. And by the way, I want to include one more thing before we move on. It's a very, very good idea in your initial emails to your prospect when they make their first sale, and in the very first chapter, to say, you know what, you've made a fantastic decision today by taking a step forward. Very few people do this, and as you'll soon see, people who don't do this are they're in grave danger. So that's one way of shocking someone as a pattern of. There's a grave danger element involved, but you congratulate them at the same time. That's incredibly important because the buyer's remorse is a very real thing. People will buy something and go, oh, did I just buy that because of the marketing? Or maybe I should just refund that. I'll never get around to reading it. That's why those first few pages are so important, that you really give them a good reason to read this stuff. And information overload is a very real thing, as all of you know. We're hit with literally thousands of messages a day. So in order for your message to connect, it really has to stand out. That's why you want to be more polarizing than you are all-encompassing. I would much rather have raving fans that are small, that are a small base of raving fans, than the entire world sort of like me. And I would love to impart that to you. Like, build the base of raving fans. And if the world doesn't, if people don't like you, or people, like the gentleman we talked about earlier doesn't get you, fine, that's awesome. I don't want that person in my clientele. I don't give a damn. I want the raving fans. I want the people that are going, man, this guy's got passion. He's got juice. Yeah, I don't agree with everything, but damn, he's got something going on. And I want that energy for you. That's basically what I want to help you instill, and know that you can do that. That energy comes from passion, but passion has to be channeled, and this little formula will help you challenge it. So I want to end this.
Hold on a second, John.
Yeah,
you
sure.
just you again. I'm just going to really quickly summarize what you just gave people. first, you told us that we can offer so much value in a concise format, which is so important, right? We are always worried that, hey, if I'm just going to give you like, a paragraph or one pager, that you're going to feel like I'm not delivering enough. So you showed us how to make sure that they feel valued, which is with the congratulations at the beginning, and the shocking. And then you said, people really prefer just getting the stuff that they need to get, even if it's a one pager. And you're so right, because in today's social overwhelm that we have, just getting exactly what you need is the perfect gift and the perfect value for people. I can't tell you how many times I get this list of like the 25 best plugins to use for blah. I don't need 25, because now I have to waste my time going all through 25. I need the one thing that works. And if that's what you give me, then that's awesome. So this was a great, great little mind shift for me. Personally, knowing that just giving the value as it is, one pager, it doesn't matter how long it is important. So
yeah, and there's a copywriting tactic, and there's a book called The One Thing, which is a great book for you guys to read. But it's a copywriting tactic too that I use, and the tactic goes like this: your job as a marketer, and when I say copywriter, by the way, I'm not referring to a professional copywriter. I'm referring to anyone that writes sales words that sell on their sales page. Congratulations, you're writing copy. So I will use the term marketer. Everyone hopefully is a marketer. Your job as a marketer is really simple. You want your prospect to believe one idea, just one idea. Now that idea can have lots of tree branches going off of it, but the tree is one tree. You don't want to say, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to prove to you that anyone listening to me right now can write compelling copy using a formula. I'm also going to tell you that you're blank, and then I'm going to teach you how to do traffic, and then I'm going to teach you. No, it's just your mind's just you can't go there, right? So focusing on that one thing will narrow your book down quite a bit, especially if you can literally say, look, I found one secret, one thing that helped me the most when it came down to making money online, losing weight, getting dates, whatever your subject matter may be. And this one thing I'm going to talk about in this book, this is the one thing that changed everything. Everybody's wanting to know what that one thing is, right? It's even better than three things, Okay, so and that one thing can have multiple tips, it can have multiple segments, but it's still that one thing. Really. What
do you do, John, when you have a main idea, but it has to be supported by other things? So, for example, I know this one thing is going to change your life. If you also do these other things that support it by itself, it's not so much, but it needs all these other things.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I mean by supporting branches. So if you take the one thing, think of a tree. The one thing is the tree, okay? And in your case, it has to be supported by the roots of the tree. So the roots come out underground. So here's root 1, root 2, root 3. Once those roots are planted, this one thing is going to work. Now, the one thing is going to also give you these multiple benefits, and those are the leaves of the tree. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah. So when you are writing copy, and I know the accelerator really helps with it, because in my head, me as an example, in my head I have all the branches and all the roots and everything, and it's like, okay, what is the one idea that connects all of them? How do you find that one idea that you can start branching out of?
That goes back to yesterday and goes back to finding the hook formula. The hook formula helps uncover that one idea. One of the hooks that we reverse engineered yesterday was the skinny gene. Okay, so if that was the one idea, that, okay, this is all about a gene inside your body, that there's actually, by the way, that's not BS. There is actually a gene that a Harvard scientist, female scientist, discovered, and she called it the skinny gene. So, man, that was like marketing done for you. Harvard woman doctor discovers skinny gene. I was like, okay, this is just great. I mean, it's like I didn't have to do much of anything. So, but then talking about like how do you activate that? Is that gene something you can flip on and flip off? Is that something in most, not to get all biology on you guys or anything, but most genetic stuff is either expressed or it's not, and there are things that you can do to even if you have genetic tendencies to have that gene fully expressed or kind of muted, and that's basically what we talk about in this particular product and book. But so that's one way of finding it, is by going through that hook and headline formula, because it will give you ideas that you might not have thought about before. The other way to find it is just look at yourself and ask this question. Look at your product or service and just answer this. Just ask yourself this question every day for a week. What is the most unique thing about my product or service? Now that is called a unique selling proposition or a position. A lot of people use USP for different. The P on P USP is up for grabs, but unique selling proposition means what is the most unique thing. The reason my book is just like everybody else's. I hear that all the time. Why I can't write a weight loss book. There's 10,000 of them. Yes, there are 10,000 of them. And the guy that wrote the 10,000th book said the same thing at one point, and now he's making money. So yeah, maybe you can do that because you have a unique selling proposition or position that you want to give over to your reader. So that's what you need to ask yourself. What is that? And just brainstorm it. Like I go back to the statement we started with yesterday. The quality of your life and the quality of the money in the quality of your lifestyle, the money you make, is determined by the quality of your questions. The better questions you ask, and the more frequently you ask them, the more money, the more wealth, the more success, the more love, the more everything you're going to have in your life. Questions are everything. And I think asking yourself questions is the most important conversation you'll ever have with anyone, is asking yourself very intelligent questions. So the intelligent question here to ask is, what makes this unique? And there is something in there, something in your idea, your product, your delivery, the way that, maybe it's the way that you deliver it. Okay? A lot of people tell me that I've gone through XYZ course, but the way that you talk and the way that you deliver the materials inside all the accelerator videos is unlike anything I've ever seen, and I love it. Okay, great. Well, then my USP for them would be I deliver this in a way that's kind of groovy or whatever. But it may not be the USP for another person. Another person may say, I just love the fact that the formulas were so simple and easy to follow, and all I had to do was push buttons inside and select copy and edit it a little bit to my liking. That may be the USP for them. The point is that the more unique you can qualify your product or service, the more likely it is that someone will buy it. And let me just cover this last thing, then I want to open this up for questions.
So, hold on just a second. Yeah. So guys, as Jon is covering that, the link to join the Hangout is active. If you guys refresh the page, you can click on the link and join us in the Hangout. Again, only join if you have specific questions for Jon, and we'll accept your questions. And as we cover this, the last one, go ahead.
Awesome. So before we get to the questions, man, you lost my train of thought, so I don't know what I was going to say.
That's okay. The last one was
okay. I'll remember. So we're talking about uniqueness, about being unique and finding what's unique. Remember something that's just so very important. The way that you communicate, whatever it may be, whatever message you need to communicate, by its very nature is unique from somebody else, right? If you can determine how you communicate that's different, and one thing that is a what that is different, here's why this is unlike any other course or any other blank out there. 1 and 2. Just give them 2 reasons why it's completely different than anything else. One reason is kind of an ipso facto reason. You are you. There is not another you out there. That is the lady that asked the question at the very beginning of the workshop today. That was, how do I know who the real guy is? Because some of the stuff, some people are saying nearly identical things. Probably not. When we get more into the VSL stuff, you won't hear this anywhere else but here. But yeah, people will take my ideas and other people's ideas and kind of repackage them in their own vernacular. But I'm a fan of that as long as they give credit where credit's due. I'm fine with that because they may say something that creates a distinction that it lands for you. That's why people say, all I need is this course. Well, I think I have the best course on the internet when it comes down to this, for sure. I wouldn't be talking to you if I didn't. But I would never say that's the only thing that you need. If you only could do one thing, absolutely, I would say that. But if you can do more than one thing, because yes, of course, Frank Kern or Ryan Dice or Evan Pagan may say something that's just different. They say something that's a different distinction. Now they don't have, except for Ryan, they don't have courses on how to do VSLs, and Ryan doesn't have a course on how to write them. But the point is that they may say one thing that go, oh wow, that one aha moment was worth that, XYZ money that I spent. So make that investment in yourself, whether it's a time investment, a financial investment, whatever it may be. It's very smart to do that so that you can get those distinctions. And what I found, last thing I'll say, is that the more I read of other people, the more that I see other people's delivery, their products, their stuff, I get inspired to make my stuff better. That's just cool, where I can say, wow, that's a great idea. I don't just steal ideas. I think that's really, really cheesy. In fact, I've probably, to be honest with you, kicked myself in the butt for not, quote unquote, stealing ideas that isn't really stealing. You're just kind of like following in the footsteps of other marketers because they've already figured stuff out, and why reinvent the wheel? I've probably been guilty of reinventing the wheel without having a need to do it in my marketing past. But this is not one of those cases. This is one of those cases where the wheel had to be completely invented literally from ground zero, which is in the case of a video sales letter, and then had to invent how to teach it. So there's something in your service, your product, in your delivery that's unique, and I'm challenging you to find it. In fact, I would love for you to do that homework and find it, and then come back. I get inspired to make my stuff. Can you mute that, please? I challenge you to find that and then come back tomorrow and let us know what it is. Find what makes that unique, and I guarantee you, if you can find just one or two things that make it unique, you're halfway home.
Love it. So guys, you guys have a worksheet that you can download from the resources page or right to the right of the Hangout. I think it's that way. And when you're going through these Hangouts, fill them out. If you have any other questions, we'll bring you into the Hangout tomorrow or even now and answer them, because this is all about making sure that you go through the training with something at the end of it. So we have Jimmy here, and then we have a few more questions if people are not showing up that they're putting in the comments. So Jimmy, do you have a question? Do you want to unmute? Show your camera.
Jimmy, you with us?
There we go.
Hello?
We can see you, but we can hear you.
You answered my question yesterday, and I wanted to ask a different question about uniqueness. If you are the first one do what you're doing, should you compare like a similar thing that has been done in the past, but you're just completely different than all the rest? How would you do that?
It's a good question to ask me because I was the first one to do this. So that's rare. It's very rare when someone says they're the first to do something. I was definitely the first to create a video sales letter course. So that was, I do have that going for me to teach people how to write something like that. So there's still comparisons that you can make. Like you can say, what are the courses out there that teach the general aspects of copywriting? Well, unlike John Caples or Gary Benzavenga or John Carlton, as great as they are, this applies specifically to blah, 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 etc. So yeah, I would do that. And that's another cool thing to do, by the way. Guys, write down the term anchoring. Some of you know what that means. Some maybe you don't. If you don't know what that means, anchoring is when you put your product in the league, or you put anything in the league of something that everyone knows. So for example, a very famous anchoring line in Every Other Day Diet was, unlike Body for Life, the Atkins diet, and the Zone diet, Every Other Day Diet does blank, blank, blank. So all I did was anchor my book to the same level of quality of those three very famous books on diet. And so that's an NLP trick, basically, but it's also just common psychology. It's just something you want to do. So if you are the first to do something, anchor yourself to another pioneer, something someone knows. Like maybe you're the Thomas Alva Edison of blank. You know.
Would you do that in your title and your hook, or would you wait till your copy to do that?
Oh, I wouldn't have it in the hook, because your hook is all about the benefits given to the person, so it's not about you. The last thing you want to do in a hook or headline, unless you were very famous, again, if you're very, very famous, you can say, like, Richard Simmons produces Deal-A-Meal, it's blah, blah, blah. Okay. But if you're not that, then the last thing people want to know, they don't care that so-and-so is the creator of that. And you see what I call arrogant copy a lot. You see, hi, my name is so-and-so, I've got 6 degrees from so-and-so, I did this, I did this, I did this, and you're already bored. I got an email the other day that had like 55 words in the very first sentence. Not paragraph, but sentence. It was a very long sentence, and none of those words were the word you. And to give you guys like some copywriting jump forwards here, someone did an analysis of one of my top converting video sales letters, and out of the 9,000 words that were in the video sales letter, the word you or your was used like 1,000 times. So wow. A ridiculous number of times. I would use you 3 times in a sentence. And you know what's really interesting? You don't even know that I'm doing this right now, but right now you are being exposed to the word you multiple times in the same sentence. I just did it 4 times in that sentence. And unless you knew that I was telling you that, you would never have picked up on it, because the subconscious mind it feed me more you, man. I just want to hear that over and over again. And when you say I, so it's an exercise that I give people. I know this is a little bit off tangent, but you get me going on copy stuff, and I can't help it. It's a little bit off tangent, but look at your sales messages, look at your emails, and count the number of times you say I. Now, a great exercise to do, and I'm not saying you should do this for sure in a video sales letter, because there are times that you should say the word I. It is a word. But you want to make sure that do an exercise and try to take out as many I's as possible and see what happens. See what happens if you take that out. And just watch the report. The report change is just phenomenal when that happens. So it's really about the prospect. So your headline, your hook, it's about what their benefits, what's in it for them, how fast is it going to happen for them, can they do it? It's not about the author of the course.
I love that. And actually, you know, guys, if you do that in relationships, you will have loving, successful, awesome relationship for the rest of your life. If you talk more about the other person. So.
That's right.
I said you're with us, but let me take a question from the comments, and then we'll dive into you. Guys, if you have more questions, click on the Join the Hangout button, and you'll be able to join us in the Hangout. So one of the questions is from Brian. He says, the main problem I'm dealing with at the moment is... the main problem I'm dealing with at the moment, which has stopped me from completing my first VSL, is coming up with a horror story, especially one related to the product I'm working on. Do you have any suggestions, ideas on dealing with this?
You know what, Brian, I've had that conversation so many times with people, and they say, I just don't have a nightmare story. So here's the answer. Don't use your own nightmare story. Use a client's nightmare story, a customer's nightmare story. It's just so easy to do, and you still have the rapport, because you start off with the phrase, I don't know about you, but I can really relate to one of my customers, Susan. Susan had blah, 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 and you tell Susan's nightmare story. If you don't have one, I guarantee you one of your customers is.
You know what, Brian,
Go for it.
There you go.
Awesome. Asad, you want to unmute? There you go.
Here's the answer.
Hold on. There you go.
Use a client's nightmare story, a customer's nightmare story. Okay.
We can't hear you for some reason. We're hearing someone else.
You're hearing the replay of the workshop.
Yeah, I don't know which one it is. Asad, can you speak?
Susan had blah 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 blah. And you tell Susan,
am I saying your name right? Asad?
You don't have one.
I am. And I'm not hearing you for some reason. So I can't hear what you're saying.
Okay, if you can't hear us, just message in your question.
And we'll take it. And then Dr. Joseph, we'll go to you.
Okay.
We can't hear you for some reason. That was Dr. Joseph. Everybody, please unmute if you're watching the video, please mute it when you come into the Hangout. Yeah. And Nathan, can you speak? That's Dr. Joseph. There you go. And unmute yourself again. I see you doing that in the comments, and then we can. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, John, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm great.
Okay, if you can't hear us, just message in your question.
Okay. Hi.
And Dr. Joseph, we'll go to you.
Okay, go ahead.
There you go. There you go.
I can't hear you for some reason.
It's you, Dr. Joseph.
Everybody, please unmute if you're watching the video, please mute it when you come into the Hangout.
This is him. So we'll go with that. Okay, you muted it. There we go.
And unmute yourself again. I see you doing that in the comments, and then.
Okay, so let's try with Bahimi. How are you, Bahimi? Unmute yourself.
Just message your question. Okay.
No?
Hi.
We have to mute everyone. We have to mute, so we can't have sorry, guys. You have to mute your video when you come on, otherwise we can't have you on. So we want to have you on, but the video has got a little bit of a lag because that's the way Google works. So it's just mute that and then come on.
Okay, so we'll try again. Dr. Joseph. Let's see if we can hear you. Try now. Speak now. Unmute and speak. There you go. Now you're good. We hear you. Go ahead.
We have to mute everyone. We have to mute.
So while you guys in the Hangout are figuring this out, let me ask you, John, another question. Jan is asking, she says, I'm so excited about today's training, John and Rifat. I'm new to the community, and I'm highly impressed with your generosity and ability to break these concepts down into bite-sized chunks. My question today is there a difference in how you speak to your audience when offering a high-ticket experience versus a low-ticket product?
That's a great question. Yes and no. The differences are in essentially the education level that you have to go through. So a high dollar product like my own or like a service that might be high dollar is still something that requires the copywriting skills that you would sell for a $37 ebook. It's just slightly different in the sense that there's more education involved. And if you are wanting to cater to a certain crowd, like maybe your product is only college graduates only, let's say that's the case, then yeah, your writing style would change. But here's what's interesting about that. They did a study on the level of writing that's the most effective in sales copy overall, and it's around a 5th grade level. And that was true even to college graduates. So I think a lot of it depends on how you want to be presented in the public. But when it comes down to being effective, writing at a 5th grade level is extremely important. It's easier to do, obviously, but it's because even people who are very intelligent, they want to get the information quickly. And a lot of the sales copy strategies that I use actually demand that you use 5th grade level copy, because you can't use syllables words with 19 syllables in them and actually be persuasive. And it takes up the different part of your mind. Your prefrontal cortex is trying to figure out what certain words mean, versus when you're just talking to that lizard brain and that monkey brain where you're talking about stuff that's based around fears and pleasures and wants, and I can solve this problem quickly. That's really where sales copy comes in. Even if it's a multiple $1,000 product, it doesn't really matter. The only difference, like I said, is the degree of education. So you might want to spend some more time in educating the customer on what's the real problem. And again, that goes back to what we talked about today. You have a problem that you're aware of, but it's actually bigger than you think it is. And that means the solution is bigger than you think it's going to be. Like if you think you're going to find a solution to your copywriting woes by buying a $200 course that doesn't teach copywriting, that's obviously not going to work, right? It's like going into a Ferrari dealership and asking for a discount. It's never going to work because you don't need to discount a Ferrari, right? So that's the same. So that's a higher dollar kind of. That's how I actually do talk for a higher dollar product. It's like when it comes down to closing the sale. But yeah, so the education part is really the only parts that change. So it's the amount of education. So for example, I might do a video sales letter, but also do a webinar that's worked in the middle of it. So they might get a video sales letter, then the next day they might get a webinar, and then they might get a video sales letter to close, or even a written sales page to close the product, because I use different mediums and higher dollar products. So the mediums would also change. Like for example, for a product like this one, or a product like Jeff Walker's product launch formula, he'll do 4 videos, and oftentimes there's a lot of content in those videos. And it's because that's very important for the mind to wrap around. Why do I need to invest multiple thousands of dollars into something where, why is that important? That's a very good question to ask. I mean, everyone should ask that question. But your job as a marketer is to answer it.
Let's try with Asad again. Asad, okay. See if we can get you. Go ahead. Yes. Awesome.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Go for it.
Brilliant. No, my question is basically with the USP, concerning USP. I mean, I have a real estate agency. I live in Spain. I do certain things that make me different from other real estate agencies, but that USP, that one thing that really sort of like, what is that a formula? Is there any way that you can get to that USP? I mean, you seem to do a brilliant job at it. I mean, my question is, how can I find a USP for myself?
Okay. There's 2 answers to that question. One answer I can't help but to say, inside Accelerator, inside the very first Getting Started section, there's actually what I call the USP Factory, where it's a whole video and drop-down menus that help you build a USP. That's one way. Another way, and even if you have that, I would recommend you do this, is to get a focus group together of your prospective clients, preferably of your clients. If you have customers right now, getting a focus group together and offering them a really nice bonus for joining you for a focus group, and ask them what makes fill in the blank so unique for you. So a lot of the answers I'm giving you is going to sound the same. It's going to sound like a broken record. It's like ask the consumer. But that is something that the most brilliant marketers miss. I've missed it so many times. I can't even tell you that where I just know that something is going to work, and it doesn't work, and I forgot to ask the consumer first. I did that infamously on my third fitness product, which was an epic failure. I mean, it took me a year to build this product, literally a year. It was 48 months, 48 weeks long. And I'm very proud of the product, but it was an epic failure because I did not ask, do you really need this? So, yeah. So ask your customers what they find unique. And if you don't have that access, ask, Facebook group, ask friends, what makes you so unique? You'll get answers that you will never, ever think that was true. And so that's what I've done with this product and many others. So.
Okay, so basically your question would be, I should ask my clients what made me unique when you chose me, that's the question. Why did you choose me instead of others?
Yes, and that data is worth a fortune to you. I mean, it really is. It is the most valuable data that you can have. Why did you choose me over X? And then I always like to say, just when I give survey tips, is always follow up with name one thing that I can do to make your experience even better. And when I phrase it that way, I don't say, you see this all the time on surveys, tell us what we can do to make something better. Well, people will write paragraphs, right? Tell me one thing that I can do. Again, it gets down to that one thing principle to make your experience even better. And if I'm phrasing that in a way to where if their experience is already awesome, what's one thing that will make it even better? Then you'll get very kind feedback. You won't get feedback that will ruin your day. You won't get feedback that's like a mile long. You'll get feedback that's very succinct, and that's what you're looking for.
Awesome. So, Bahimi, unmute.
I'm unmuted, aren't I?
Yeah, you're good. Go for it.
There you are.
Hey!
Welcome.
Figured it out.
Hey.
I'm really enjoying your course, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
And my question is, I work for other people, so I have clients. And I've been creating live stream webinars, and I create sales pages, but I feel like I need to up my game. I want to broaden our base and get out of the group we're in and get out to more eyeballs. So I guess how do I go about do I package all this information to my clients to, this is the next level for me to offer service? I'm also creating a boutique agency now because I can see where there's a need for different things in my genre, and so I wanted to see what you thought about that.
That's a great question. So first of all, when I hear should I package this as something that is kind of an add-on to the existing customers, my marketer reflex is absolutely. That sounds really, really good, and that would be a great exercise in modifying your sales copy. And we did that for Accelerator. We've done that for multiple things where we had what was originally an upsell or an add-on that we eventually added into the product itself, and then gave the users who bought it even more value from giving them something else. And that just was a great lesson in what people really want and how to hone that message. But as far as stepping up the game, yeah, we're going to talk about the ultimate schedule this week. I don't remember if it's day tomorrow or day 4, but we're going to talk about the ultimate schedule.
Yeah,
day 5. Day 5.
Yeah.
Okay. So day 5, we're talking about the ultimate schedule that you should follow, and it's very simple. I'm not going to give it away now, but yeah, if you follow that schedule, I promise you. If you follow the schedule, and you guys are going to laugh when you hear it, because again, the best answers are simple ones usually. You'll solve that problem. You'll step up the game. In order to step up the game, you really do have to step outside of your comfort zone. And so let me just address that real briefly, then we'll take the next question. Stepping outside comfort zones is by its very nature inherently uncomfortable. But it's very important to do that. You will never know unless you test. So when people say, oh, that sounds too salesy, or oh, that sounds too bold, or whatever, you don't know. You're only going on your own opinion. You're not going on the opinion of your buyers. So unless you test it, you will never know. So when you step outside your comfort zone and say, I'm going to up my game, just realize that the words are going to be a little different. They can't at all sound exactly like your current words. They have to be, that you have to step it up. And usually when people step it up, I'll be honest with you guys, usually the words are far more persuasive. And so what I do, this is for me and not necessarily for everybody else, but what I do is I'll go overboard on that. I'll actually step it up to the point where I will disqualify people from the group. I will say, look, this isn't for you, most of you guys. Most of you guys just aren't cool enough to be a part of this. This is, and I'm being somewhat joking when I say that because I don't say that literally, but I do have a little bit of a line in my sales letter called the Cool Kids Club, and I said, I talked about being bullied around in high school and how I eventually became part of the Cool Kids Club, and now I kind of did the same thing in internet marketing. I kind of created a Cool Kids Club. So by that very nature of that conversation, I'm saying, and if you're not in that club, you're kind of not cool. So, that's very aggressive, but it's also very funny. It's like kind of like tongue-in-cheek. So there's lots of different ways you can go about upping the game, but it really is going to center around the fact that you need to be more persuasive. And persuasive, tomorrow we're going to talk more about this. Persuasion and coercion are two different things. Compelling someone to do something versus convincing someone to do something, radically different things. You want to compel, you want to persuade. You don't want to coerce, and you certainly don't want to lie.
Right.
So, hope that answers.
Just one other quick thing. The audience that I play to is more the, and I'll just give an example. People like in the genre of panache desai, people who are Jennifer McLean and all her the Healing with the Masters, those kind of people. That's the audience that my clients are. So I have to be careful not to get too heavy or intense because that doesn't go over well with those kind of people.
Well, I know Jennifer because she's a customer of mine, so I know her because
she is. Yeah, that's how I got here.
Oh, okay, cool. So I was just on a call yesterday with she's in a mastermind with my friend Glenn Gladwell, and so Glenn asked me to come on and speak at their mastermind. And anyway, long story short, yes, she had the same exact issue, and I totally get the vibe of that audience. Where you go there instead of the stronger, kind of more, I want to call it this more of the alpha approach, is you can go farther into the beta approach. You can go further into like all the benefits that can happen when you do this. Don't be afraid to list out benefits that extend beyond what you think. So. There's a benefit exercise that I give people when it helps them to create just better bullets and better benefits. So what I would suggest the very first thing you do is just sit down with a sheet of paper and just say, okay, I'm going to do nothing but write out benefit after benefit after benefit after benefit. And then just write out to where you get 50 benefits for going through your course. I will guarantee you that in that 50 benefits, there's probably 20 or 30 that you're not talking about in your sales message. So the reason why I know that works is because one of the highest converting sales letters ever I had to compete against. I had to Gary Halbert, who's a legend copywriter, wrote this letter, and they hired me to beat the control, which was very difficult to do. We ended up beating the control, but we ended up using Gary's endings because we didn't have to rewrite the whole thing. And his ending was one bullet point after another that was benefits. I mean, that went down. I could not believe where this guy was getting his benefits from. It went so far beyond the program. It went to like you're gonna wake up with more energy. And this was astrology. It was astrology, numerology. Excuse me, a numerology stuff. And then he said that you're going to wake up with more energy. Tomorrow you're going to reach inside your pocket and find something that you won't even know is going to be there. But on page 16, I'm going to tell you what that is, and you need to keep it in your pocket the whole time. And I'm like, wow, I just want to know what it is for that whole what's going to be in my pocket thing. And that's what I mean by like finding a little bit more persuasion. Like what other cool things can you say? Like you're also going to get this and this and this and this, and just keep going because in that audience, I know it works for a fact because we've done it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hope it helps. You're welcome.
John, there are questions coming up about the worksheet and just filling out the blanks. So let's just do this for a second.
Sure.
Just tell people what goes into answers 1 and 4.
Okay.
So we'll just say your product must be.
Okay.
Just one word.
What for? Your product must open with something shocking.
Something shocking. Number 2, build.
Okay, number 4 is build rapport and be authentic.
Okay. Number 3.
Okay, tell them about the problem and why it's different than what they think it is. It's bigger than what they think it is.
Perfect. And number 4?
Give your solution.
Give your solution. Awesome.
I probably should have done that better. Sorry, guys. I get carried away.
No, it's beautiful, because I think what happens is people are actually listening to you and trying to fill it out, and we should probably get into the habit of giving them the answers at the end.
We will do that. All right.
Do that.
Lesson learned. Awesome.
Russell has a question. He's here with us, but he has sick kids, so I'm sorry to hear that, Russell. And the question is, have you ever done a formal test on using misspelled words versus spelling the word properly?
Sure. Yeah, many times. Yeah.
And he says, what worked better?
The misspelled words.
The misspelled words.
So let me be really blunt here. This is for this is usually for a lower dollar product, and it's usually testing on a lot of volume. So we were not talking about sending out an email where I actually misspelled a word by accident. And that happens when you're writing in a hurry and you're like, you just misspell a word. So I actually wanted to use that example and make kind of a funny point behind it. But in the headline that I wrote for Every Other Day Died, for example, that headline was tested against the word spelled correctly, and it just, I don't know why, it works better. My suspicion is because you're focusing on that one word. So another thing that one of the most famous ads that was ever created was for my Every Other Day Diet book. I didn't create it, one of my affiliates did, and it said it was like one odd tip for belly fat or something like that, but it was no, one odd tip of belly fat. It said of instead of for belly fat. It said one odd tip of belly fat. And it's funny because Yafet, they were Israeli. And so I don't know if it was because they didn't know of and for, or if it was because it was a typo. But we tested that ad and we said, oh, well, they misspelled the word for, so we changed it, and it bombed. Don't ask me why. I don't know what to tell you. So, so we have tested it, and that was tested on like millions of clicks in a month. So yeah, lots.
I'll tell you guys, one of my best typo story is that I wrote a post on Google Plus, and I was looking at a TED video that was talking about paradigm shifts, and I wanted to know if anyone ever had a paradigm shift. And so I asked, did you ever had a paradigm shift? And I forgot the F. And the answers were just amazing on one of my most popular posts. It just came coming. Yeah, I just had one today. I finished an entire magazine. So, it was very engaging, and people loved it. And in Google Plus, you can come in and edit the content, so it's not there anymore for you guys to see. But it actually generates reactions, so that's a good thing. Yeah. We are past the time, but let's just get Steve, do you want to jump in? You have a question? Because we want to serve everybody here. So unmute yourself. Steve? Any voice, I believe. And you're good, thanks. And then Jack, you have a question? If not, we are past time and we will finish today's hangout. Last question? No? You're good? Okay, awesome. So what are we covering tomorrow?
What are we covering tomorrow, Yvette? I'm going to let you tell everyone.
We are covering the fastest way to get more traffic. This is awesome. You guys have a winning sales. You have your hook. You know how to start with pattern interruption and how to craft your message. And now how do you get traffic to your sale? So that's tomorrow. If you have any questions about that, you know where to put them. Also, we already have a worksheet in place, so you can download that and kind of try to figure out what we'll talk about. And that's it. Give us your questions. If you have any questions about today, we'll take them to tomorrow. If you have any specific traffic issues that you want answers about, join us. And thank you, Jon, for awesome content again.
Hey, you're welcome. And thank you, everyone, again, for joining. We had tons of viewers, and it's like it was crazy yesterday. It's even crazier today. And let me just give you one hint on the prizes. You already know that the first prize is worth $2,500, and that's legit. That's not like some marketer value. That's literally what it cost. And I can tell you that the second prize is all about traffic. I can't tell you what it is, but so you want to stick around. You want to play that contest because it's a big one. It's a big one.
Awesome. I'm excited. I want to win. So thanks, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.
All right.